Morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Some interesting news. Joe Biden is being accused of colluding with the intelligence community to spread disinformation, which then in turn altered the outcome of the 2020 elections. This is about the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was covered up through a letter from these intel officials. Biden apparently was involved. And it's looking bad for him on a few areas because, well, as we know, his son Hunter, well, the Hunter Biden laptop, also has some other issues, potentially financially. And an IRS whistleblower has stepped forward. And this individual is making pretty serious accusations, not just against Hunter Biden, but also against Joe Biden. And regardless of whether this results in any kind of charges or anything like that, this is happening right during tax season when Americans are looking at the amount of money they're spending, and when Joe Biden is talking about how he needs to force the wealthy Americans to pay their fair share. And it looks pretty bad if you're telling wealthy Americans to pay their fair share, and you're even going after like middle class taxpayers to a pretty serious extent, and you're not paying your fair share. Well, people are going to be pretty dang unhappy, and that's what's happening right now. It's going to be interesting. Folks will go into this and a few other issues as well. Also, quick reminder, this is the last week of Crossroads as it currently is. We're going to be going to a primetime show starting next week. I mentioned we're going to be on cable now. And so that's going to be cable TV, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 days a week. We're still going to be on Epoch TV. We're still going to have the live chats. So those of you, all of you here can still join the live chat on Epoch TV. But we're going to be, again, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, instead of doing 3 times a week. The full cable launch is going to be on the 15th of next month. I need a bit of time to prep for it. So for the first couple weeks of next month, I'll be doing for the next couple weeks, I'll be doing a monologue to start, and that's kind of just me prepping for the full show starting. But get ready for it, folks. Again, though, we will still have the live chat, so you folks can all still chat. And of course, we'll see further down the road if we want to change anything around and work it out. But this is going to be big. Crossroads is going big time. Interesting times we're in. Those of you curious about the times, if you want to watch Crossroads on cable, you can go to ntd.com/cabletv.htm. It's going to be different channels depending which state you're in. We are on FiOS, which is, I think, pretty much the same everywhere you are. But again, go to ntd.com/cabletv.htm. We will still have Crossroads through Epoch Times. We're staying here, but we are going to broadcast on cable at least through our sister media, NTD. So, folks, we're going for the big times. It's going to be interesting, and we're all in this together. And thank you all for being here. We're going to start as a half-hour show. The goal is to move it to an hour. It's similar to any other primetime show, but of course with my personal analysis brought into it. And folks, that says jump into the first story for the day. Biden is being accused of colluding with the intelligence officials who wrote that large open letter claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story looked like Russian disinformation. It was that letter, the intel officials' letter, that came out and really inspired a lot of the social media giants to crush the story. And if you remember, polling data coming out at that time or afterwards showed that had voters been properly informed about Hunter Biden's laptop and the fact that Joe Biden's son is like a full-on crackhead who's sleeping around with hookers and possibly has business deals tied in with Joe Biden himself, selling his father's influence, a lot of people wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. In fact, polling data shows that had the public been shown that story, at least based on what people are saying, Joe Biden would not have won the election. And you could call that, of course, election interference. That is using disinformation, the covering up of the Hunter Biden laptop story and claiming it's Russian disinformation, which they admitted they had no evidence on which to base that claim. Spreading that disinformation, using that disinformation to silence critics, And then, of course, through that, altering the outcome of an election. Joe Biden is now implicated in that scandal. Let me show you first off here. This is the Twitter account of the House Judiciary Committee, the Republicans at least, and they say, breaking testimony reveals Secretary Blinken, it's of the Secretary of State, and Biden campaign were behind the infamous public statement from former intel officials on the Hunter Biden laptop. Got a Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and President Joe Biden both now implicated in the creation and dissemination of false information that altered the outcome of the 2020 elections. Another thing here, let me show you. Post Millennial had it. They say, breaking, former CIA chief Mike Morrell testifies under oath that Biden campaign and Tony Blinken asked him to orchestrate letter from 50 intel officials falsely claiming Hunter Biden emails were Russian disinformation. Let me show you what it says. It says the House Judiciary Committee Thursday night released a shocking letter addressed to Secretary of State Antony Blinken revealing that the basis upon which the claims that stories concerning Hunter Biden's laptop from hell were Russian disinformation were prompted by the Biden campaign and Blinken himself. What does this mean? It means that the disinformation covering up the Hunter Biden laptop story, censoring mainstream media off of Twitter and Facebook and so on, censoring myself to some extent, all of that was based on claims falsely made by Joe Biden and Antony Blinken in order to change the outcome of the election, ironically covering up something that Joe Biden very likely knew was in fact real, claiming otherwise, manipulating the standing of our intelligence community in doing so. Now, does that sound familiar? What other time have political actors colluded with intelligence officials and working with the Democrat campaign to spread disinformation, to attack, critics, to alter the outcome of the election? It's the exact same thing that happened in 2016 when the Hillary Clinton campaign colluded with the DNC to spread falsified information. It was fake. The Steele dossier. They financed it. They disseminated it. They used the intelligence community in that same case. Although rather than like Biden, who used former intelligence officials, the Clinton campaign and the DNC used the actual FBI and the actual standing intelligence communities, and Obama was involved with that. Remember, they even had the letter with the CIA, the NSA, and other agencies coming out and doing their assessment based on falsified information from the DNC and the Clinton campaign. Remember that? With the intent and with the almost accomplished purpose of altering the outcome of the elections. We're seeing now the same pattern repeated twice. Democrat campaign colluding with the intelligence community, colluding with the media to falsify information, and with big tech, I should note, to falsify information with the intent to alter the outcome of an election. It continues here, though. Let me go back to the post-millennial. It says the false claim that the laptop was Russian disinformation was repeated ad nauseum by Biden allies like Jen Psaki, who became the first press secretary under the Biden administration. The claim was based on a letter signed by 50 former members of the intelligence community, and that letter was organized by former CIA Director Mark Morrell, who did so at the prompting of the Biden administration. The Judiciary Committee stated in the letter Morrell told the committee that Blinken, then a senior campaign official, Antony Blinken, the current State Department, head of State Department, who was then a senior campaign official with Joe Biden, reached out to former CIA Director Mike Morrell, after the New York Post published articles detailing information found on the laptop concerning influence peddling and shady overseas business dealings. Morrell said that he organized the letter and the signatories to, quote, help Vice President Biden for the reason that he, quote, wanted him to win the election. In other words, this was done with the written publicly now available statement, the intent of falsified information. This was done with the intent to alter the outcome of the 2020 elections. It says Morell used his influence to encourage his colleagues to sign a letter asserting false claims in order to further the Biden's campaign. It says Morell was clear that it wasn't until he was contacted by Blinken that he determined to take the action to organize a letter and to exonerate Biden from the allegations stemming from his son's laptop. Morell said that his conversation with Blinken, quote, triggered that intent. It notes as well that apparently Blinken had sent Morell an article from USA Today that stated the FBI was investigating the likelihood that the laptop, which was abandoned by Hunter Biden at a Delaware computer repair shop before the owner turned it over to the FBI, who sat on it, and to Rudy Giuliani, who disseminated it, was part of a disinformation campaign. Morell then did his own research and contacted retired CIA officials to help him get to the bottom of the allegations with the intent of discrediting the reporting from the New York Post. Remember, New York Post was even censored and attacked amidst all of this, if you remember. Morell gathered the signatures, including those of John Brennan and Leon Panetta. Morell further testified that the Biden campaign indicated that a specific reporter at the Washington Post should get the letter along with the campaign. In other words, Biden campaign, Blinken, Antony Blinken, part of the Biden campaign, right, trying to get Biden elected, colluded with the former director of the CIA to spread false information to cover up what was actually real information, going against one of the major news outlets, which at the time was publishing a real investigative piece that was very damaging to a political campaign. The New York Post was writing stellar journalism at that time. The New York Post was writing accurate news reports. And the Biden campaign at the time understood that the news reports, the statements of truth, were dangerous to his ability to be able to win the election. So what did they do? The campaign then contacted a former intel official, the former head of the CIA, who then worked through his network within the intel community, all these former CIA officials, many of whom you will note still have access to classified information, meaning that when they make statements, a lot of people assume, oh, well, maybe they're basing this on some kind of insider knowledge. Usually their statements are taken with some level of credibility because you assume that they have some deeper knowledge of what's actually taking place because they still have access to that intelligence. They weaponized public trust. They wrote and then signed this letter claiming falsely that these reports were Russian disinformation, which they then disseminated to a friendly news outlet, the Washington Post, under Jeff Bezos, falsified this information, disseminated this false information, misled the public, lied to the public about something that Joe Biden, I would assume, would know is true. He denied that he knows about Hunter Biden's wheelings and dealings, but leaked information since he made those claims has shown otherwise, that Joe Biden is aware of it. Not only is he aware of it, he's involved in some regards, in some areas. Disseminated that information, misled the public, and then took the extra step where the actual intelligence community, the FBI and other agencies, then began approaching different social media outlets and told them, watch out for Russian disinformation. Intelligence community says the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. And through this network, the intelligence community influencing the big tech platforms began massively censoring these reports. While members of Congress, I don't want to be too partisan, but on the Democrat side, were then holding public hearings, calling in the heads of major social media outlets and asking them, why are they not censoring more? Why are they allowing Russian disinformation to spread? They did this to crush legitimate news reporting, to silence journalists who are writing actual, real investigative reports, to remove a scandal that was true, actually, from spreading, that would look very bad on the, again, major runner of the Democrat Party, and then used this entire scandal to mislead the American public in order to falsify information to alter the outcome of an election. Now, the scary thing with this is a pattern. As I mentioned, they did the same thing in 2016. 2016 was the Steele dossier. 2016 was Fusion GPS working with the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee to disseminate false information, to collude with big tech, to collude with the intelligence community, to mislead the public, to launch investigations into the main political enemy, Donald Trump at the time. And through that weaponization of our intelligence community, weaponization of the entire infrastructure connected to media and everything else, first investigate and then try to prevent someone from winning an election, and then to try to remove a sitting president from office. Now, this is like beyond third world stuff. This makes banana republics look legitimate. This is the kind of stuff that, like, if you made a movie about this, people would roll their eyes and be like, no government on earth is this corrupt. That's how utterly insane this is. But just wrapping this up, I'll go into a few more points on this. It says that letter was used by the Biden campaign, right? That Russian disinformation letter that they planted, right? Antony Blinken with the Biden campaign. He was not an official at the time. With the Biden campaign planted that by contacting Morale, wrote the letter, disseminated the letter, and then the Biden campaign used that letter to discredit and censor the New York Post's factual reporting in order to help the Biden win the 2020 presidential election. It says Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe stated in October 2020 that the laptop was decidedly not part of a Russian disinformation campaign, meaning the intelligence officials based their claim on no evidence that was known at the time. In other words, they knowingly made false statements, actually. And it says also in October of 2020, a Department of Justice source said that the FBI had dropped an investigation into the laptop after its contents had been delivered to them by the laptop repair shop owner. Why did the FBI drop investigations into the laptop? Well, the laptop has evidence of human trafficking. The laptop has evidence of violating FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The laptop has evidence of a son of a senator and former president doing wheeling and dealing, selling his father's influence. The laptop has evidence of massive drug use, but also the trafficking of women across state lines, prostitutes in that case, and other crimes of that sort. Now, why would the FBI not investigate those crimes? It's because we have a two-tiered system of justice. Rules for thee and not for me, and Hunter Biden, being the son of the vice president at the time, was given some level of immunity, it appears, by the FBI. Of course, innocent till proven guilty. We'll see what comes out as they assess whether criminality is evident within the contents of the laptop. At the very least, there are serious accusations and evidence that suggests that crimes were committed. But again, we'll see what happens with it. Washington Examiner had this story going further into it. Russian disinformation claims gave Joe Biden and media cover to dismiss the Hunter allegations. It says President-elect, during the campaign, Joe Biden's campaign, along with many in the media, dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop story, which emerged in October, as being part of a Russian disinformation operation without evidence. Concerns about the younger Biden erupted with into the broader sphere this week after multiple outlets reported that he's being investigated in connection to his taxes and overseas business dealings with China and other countries, in an inquiry opened as far back as 2018. Earlier this year, during a presidential debate, Joe Biden had dismissed the laptop emails as part of a Russian plan and inaccurately cited a letter from dozens of former intelligence officials. You getting how this scam worked? Let me go into this first. Biden said this. Biden said, quote, these are exact words, "There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what Trump's accusing me of is a Russian plan or plant." You get that? Joe Biden had Antony Blinken go and create this letter colluding with the, a former CIA, former top official, creating false evidence that they knew they were involved in creating, and then cited the false evidence they helped create as a way to accuse other people of doing what they did. They're gaslighting people, accusing New York Post of spreading false information, when in reality Joe Biden was spreading false information. They manufactured false evidence and then used the false evidence they manufactured to crush legitimate evidence. Ironically, that is exactly the way disinformation campaigns work. Biden, the DNC, the intelligence community, big tech, and many mainstream news outlets, corporate media, manufactured, disseminated, and used disinformation to mislead the public and interfere with our elections. That's massive. That is huge. And ironically, these are the same folks accusing everyone else of spreading disinformation, claiming they need to create new government branches to crack down on disinformation, citing even the fact that people were talking about the, Hunter Biden laptop story, and claiming that anybody who spread it was a spreader of disinformation and an agent of Russia, committing what should be called libel, what should be called defamation, in order to mislead the public and to ironically attack the people who are representing public interest, who were telling the people the truth, who were informing the public and the voters of information they need to make their informed decision on who they choose as their president, claiming that the people who were being honest were the ones who were lying, and making sure that lies were the only thing capable of being shown to the public through the use of censorship. And that was being done, of course, through the collusion between the FBI and other agencies working hand in hand with big tech. Remember some of the reports we've seen coming out of the internal system within Twitter before Elon Musk took over, where the FBI was communicating with them constantly, trying to crush disinformation. And they were doing things like this. They were not crushing disinformation. They were crushing legitimate information and helping to ensure that disinformation was all that you and I were capable of seeing. That's what actually happened. And they were not just doing that on Twitter, they're doing it on other social media platforms as well. Further in it says, earlier this year, during a presidential debate, Joe Biden had dismissed the laptop emails as part of a Russian plan and inaccurately cited a letter from dozens of former intelligence officials. And Biden, I mentioned, said that. Then Trump actually fired back at Biden during that, and Trump said this. He said, "You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?" And Biden said, "That's exactly what I was told." No, that's not what Biden was told. That's what Biden told Blinken, who then told a former CIA official who falsified a report admitting they had no evidence on which to base their claims, which then misled the public and launched a massive censorship campaign covering up what Joe Biden was concerned and apparently would alter the outcome of the elections were the truth known to the public, and which polling data has shown would have altered the outcome of the elections had the public known about it. It says Biden was referring to a political report that over 50 intelligence officials, including Obama CIA Director John Brennan, signed a letter and an article by Natasha Bertrand titled, "Hunter Biden's Story is Russian Disinfo, Dozens of Former Intel Officials Say." That was one of the articles that they colluded in disseminating falsely to the public. It says the title was misleading because the signatories on that report never called the laptop Russian disinformation. And so you have here Politico being involved in the falsification of information and the falsification and framing of it then being used by Biden to attack political enemies. It says they cited another article claiming the federal authorities are investigating whether the material is part of a smoke bomb of disinformation pushed by Russia, but said that, quote, we do not know whether these press reports are accurate. Well, they should have known because they were the ones who gave the source material. They should have known because it was their intelligence, or lack thereof, that falsified this information and provided it to them. They should have known, so they were being disingenuous here as well. It says the officials claim the laptop, quote, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, but admitted that, quote, we do not have evidence of Russian involvement. Because they falsified it. They faked it. They were gaslighting the public. Oh, I'm not manipulating you. You're just crazy. I'm not trying to interfere in the elections. You are just a spreader of misinformation and you've been misinformed. I am the arbiter of truth, and how dare anybody question what I say? We need to crack down on disinformation to ensure the public is not misled. We will stand by the truth, so help me God, and we will make sure that nobody else can spread lies ever again. And so let the lies stand unquestioned was the agenda here, it seems. And again, the important part with all this, and I want to say this, I mean, really, I can't nail this down hard enough. This is a pattern. This is a modus operandi. This is a mode of operation, right? This is how they operate. You collude. Again, the campaigns collude with the intel community. The intel community disseminates to the media. The media spreads false information. The politicians and other media outlets react to the false information. And then the different social media platforms, big tech and companies, use that entire smokescreen they manufactured to crush all the legitimate information, to crush the truth. Obama did it in 2016. Biden did it in 2020. And these are the folks saying we need to have the Disinformation Governance Board. These are the folks saying we need to have greater censorship on the internet. These are the folks saying, how can Elon Musk allow false information to prevail online? We need to have stronger filters on information. You have Ocasio-Cortez, right? Cortez, telling media right now that she's going around saying that Fox News should not be allowed to broadcast certain election claims on cable TV, saying that conservative media should be censored, that certain arguments should not be allowed to be made. What about falsified information created and disseminated with the intent of misleading the public in order to alter the way they cast their votes? Again, it's important to recognize the system. It appears, because we've seen it twice now, that there is some type of collusion between the Democrat Party, and I'm just saying this because this is what we've seen. I'm not trying to be partisan here, but we've seen it twice now, folks. Right? Throw me under the bus if you like. I'm not trying to be partisan. This is just the truth. The Democrat Party, the DNC, twice now, has colluded with the intelligence community. In 2016, with currently serving intelligence officials, and in 2020, with former intelligence officials. Once the DNC colludes with them, they manufacture falsified evidence. The intelligence community then disseminates, or brings back to them, disseminates that falsified evidence to the media system, the news outlets. The news reports are then used by the campaign, head of the Democrat Party or by other members of their system to then go and make public claims, accusations against their political enemies or against media that are spreading they're spreading true information, that are spreading accurate information that makes them look bad. And they then call for a crushing of this. The different systems of, mentioning NPR, Annette Nelson's mentioning, NPR did that. Then they have the reaction as well from big tech and the whole censorship establishment. The Googles, the Facebooks, the Twitters, we'll see how Twitter reacts now that Elon Musk is in charge, to then censor legitimate information and ensure that any kind of reports that would challenge the lies that are ironically being disseminated are the only things that are allowed to stand, while people who speak the truth are silenced. That is the modus operandi. And the scary thing with that is through that scandal, through that manipulation of our intelligence communities, working hand in hand with our political establishment, working hand in hand with the media, with many acting politicians, and with big tech, this system of collusion to mislead the public and to interfere in our elections, which is what they did both in 2016 and in 2020, to try to remove a sitting president from office, which should be called a coup, this system of lying corruption, and that's an accurate way to put it, of lies and corruption, is used to mislead you and your friends and to turn you against each other and to make people believe that you are believing in false information and that you are a conspiracy theorist, and to damage your credibility and to make you question yourself as you try to judge between truths and falsehoods, and make you think that you're the one who's wrong, when in reality what you believe is right. You call that gaslighting. Gaslighting. That's exactly what this is. And corruption. Let's be clear. Wild stuff, folks. All right, I want to go into the IRS scandal because, hey, it's getting bigger. It's getting even crazier, in fact. And the timing of this couldn't be worse for Joe Biden, honestly. And I'm making an effort, folks. I'm not trying to be too partisan here, but this is just the truth. There was an IRS whistleblower who stepped forward claiming Joe Biden's covering up for Hunter Biden and claiming that there's evidence of massive fraud, financial fraud being committed, and that both Hunter and Joe might be wrapped up in it. Innocent till proven guilty. We'll see what it is. I doubt they'll be charged anyways, but it's Joe Biden's the president. He can pardon anybody, right? I mean, just being honest, right? But beyond this, the timing is what matters. This is tax season. And while you have Joe Biden saying, we need to make sure everyone pays their fair share, we have people trying to get away with this, that there are millionaires and billionaires who are not paying their fair share, and we need to create like tens of thousands of new IRS jobs to go and track them down. We need to create different ways of tracking even, $500, $600, cash charges and so on, to make sure that everybody is paying their fair share. And the very guys doing that are the ones violating it, at least according to the accusations. Wild stuff and terribly, terribly timed for them. I'll show you this in a minute, folks. Let's jump over to Epoch TV for the rest of this, though. Before we jump over, let me show you a quick trailer, and I'll see you there. Hi there, Josh Philipp here. Our values are being assaulted every day by the lies that mainstream media perpetuate, and it's put our country on the edge of a knife, with no one knowing whether or not we'll make it. If you love our country and the freedoms we celebrate, I'll give you the number one thing you can do to ensure this country stays this way. Now, you probably feel that's impossible. Maybe you think the situation is too far gone. I felt the same way until I joined the Epoch Times, started this show, and saw the power that truth can bring our growing audience. That's why I wanted to tell you there is something you can do. You can ensure the truth gets out there from my show. And by supporting me, you're supporting the Epoch Times, and you're supporting independent journalism that is, bar none, this country's best hope in surviving the onslaught against our values and freedoms. Shockingly, most people don't even realize that almost every mainstream media company belongs to one of 6 huge corporations, all with their own agendas and demanding shareholders. Some even think it's a good thing. Folks, how can we ensure the reporting is free of bias? We can't. This is why my show and the Epoch Times is so critical. We're completely independent. Our only interest is in traditional journalism and reporting truthfully. The Epoch Times is the antidote. It's time to replace these prevalent narratives with the truth and get back to the basics. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All you have to do is subscribe to Epoch TV, and you'll get so much more in return. With your subscription, you get access to hundreds of exclusive videos, over 30 channels, live shows, events, and even hard-hitting documentaries and films that are changing the game. Just click on the link in the description of the show, and you're on your way. Thanks so much for watching me and for your support, and remember, The only way to truly protect our freedoms is to stay informed. Yeah, again, folks, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your support, and it's always a pleasure. Let's go deeper into some of this. I can say proudly that despite the barrage of